Hey, what's good, people? This is episode 137, maybe 138. Doesn't matter. This is the Option Podcast. That guy on my left, or is it my right? Big Lou,
Which
man.
way we looking?
What up, Big Lou? The episode starts. Buckle up, people. The episode starts right now. Whoa, that was loud. What's up, Lou?
Man, you know what? I'm good, man. I'm excited to be here. Let me start off the proper way because I was raised in said manner. Thank you for allowing me to be on the show, man. I definitely appreciate it. I know you got your choice of, who to pick and choose from to have out there. So the fact that I made it onto this show in the triple digits instead of the quad digits, because eventually you will hit 10,000 or
Mm-hmm.
1,000.
Right.
Since we're in the hundreds right now, so I'm glad to be on this early in, and
Oh,
hopefully
man.
we give these guys something to have a good time with and laugh at, but
Yeah.
understand the message of what's coming through in these different questions, concerns, complaints, issues, ideas, or anything else that you guys may have for us.
Yo,
Don't
listen,
take
I
it personal, people.
no, I mean, well, if they take it personally, then they probably won't watch this podcast.
Well,
There's a whole bunch of people waiting to get their feelings hurt who actually tune in every week. So there's that demographic of people too, right?
I
They're
could be indirectly talking about you
yeah.
without knowing you.
Well, cool. Nice. So listen, before we talk about what we were talking about before the show started, I like interesting people. I like interesting people. There are people who are less popular. There's a karaoke queen a couple of weeks ago. There's, you know what I'm saying, Olympic gold medalist, had Dane on, but so I have all kinds of people. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know if I would ever want to interview Popovich. Right? He's not the kind of person you want to do a long form podcast. You see him in the
For
fourth
sure.
you see him in the fourth quarter. It's like, what's your strategy to this one? Make sure we win. It's like
I mean, the obvious. He states the obvious,
yeah.
quick
Yeah.
and simple, and then he gets back
Yeah.
to work on the court. But I'll
But
say
those
this.
guys with like fewer words makes themselves more attractive, right? Like you want a long form because they are fewer words, but sometimes at the end of the day, that's all they are. They're just really great coaches. Because we're going to
Yeah,
talk about great coaches, right? Uh, um, who don't have a whole lot to say.
I mean, it's funny. I was talking with somebody earlier this week in reference to great coaches, and the coaches that we see, and I'm gonna just use basketball as an example right now.
Please, because we're gonna talk a little bit about football too. But go ahead.
Okay, um, in that Michael Jordan. I mean, for me, it's not even arguably. He's the GOAT. He's the best to ever play the game. Um, and then bless his heart, he delved into coaching and didn't go too well.
Hmm.
And then we have some players who, you know, great at what they did. Are they on a Michael Jordan type level, the GOAT level? Not necessarily, right? We got the Jason Kidds, we got Steve Nash's, even Ty Lue is out there doing this thing right now. Um, and I guess the funny thing between them all is we look at Michael Jordan, who was again the greatest player to ever play the game, but he couldn't coach as well as he played.
Right.
And then these other people that I mentioned, the Ty Lue's, the Steve Nash's, the J Kids, again, all great at what they did, but for some reason, more efficient at coaching. I won't necessarily say better, but I'll say more efficient, more effective coaches. And I think the reason behind that is, and this is just my humble opinion, people. It hasn't been written anywhere, so don't take it as that type of gospel. It's just my own observation, being an ex-athlete and a coach now and a mentor of young men as well. Um, that being, Michael Jordan was so great at what he did. His ability to learn, take in information, process it, regurgitate it on the court physically, film study, putting in the extra hours, getting up early, going to bed late. Um, I think, as a coach, expected the players that he had to be the same type of student and have the same fire and passion and drive that he did. Um, and that's one of the things as a coach that we have to be very good at in terms of breaking the information down, and everybody's learning curve is different. Everybody's ability to adapt is different. Everybody's athletic prowess coming in is a little bit different. And I think Michael Jordan just was unable to convey or have the patience with some of those guys that he was coaching to learn things as fast as he did, and then be able to apply it and be a master of it, within a couple weeks, and then move on to the next learning lesson. Um,
I
Whereas Jason Kidd, again, Steve Kerr. I mean, here's a great example. Steve Kerr was phenomenal when he was playing the game. Was he on a Michael Jordan level? No, obviously. But look at what Steve Kerr was able to do and is still doing with Golden State. Just his student mentality of the game, but I think his patience with the collection of guys that he has, the core of the guys he had, and how he delivers the message. I think it just comes off a little bit differently because he himself had to be patient with his skill set when he was, out there doing the gambit, getting up early for practice, going to bed late, flying around, doing all the film study. So him just understanding that from that perspective, being in it in himself, I think it gives him a little bit more understanding in terms of being patient with the learning curve, or having a different way to deliver the message, because sometimes getting that point across, there's a variety of ways to get the message across, but then we can be handicapped by our own personal athletic ability and can only see one or two ways to explain that stuff, i.e. Michael Jordan. And it just didn't transfer well or look well on the court. So he wasn't a very successful basketball coach. Again, which begs the question, how can somebody so good be so bad coaching? Because he didn't have the best run when he was coaching. And I think, in my most humble opinion, just to tie that all together, I just think the guys who had to work the hardest and understand those extra hours, but the learning curve, their patience is just a little bit more in depth, if you will, with the guys that they're working with to teach that. And I think that's why you see a lot of these coaches out there today who were, again, great players in their own right, not on the Michael Jordan
Yeah.
level, but we
Isaiah
look at,
Thomas is another one, right?
I mean, again, I mean, another one. I mean, I'm glad you even brought that up because I totally forgot about Isaiah Thomas, of which, I was a huge Detroit Piston fan back in the day. And that's, partly in part because I was a Dennis Rodman fan, obviously Bill Laimbeer.
Yeah.
Again, people, for those of you who are watching this, I want to
That
say
was
this is
before the
back.
flagrant foul.
This is before the foul. Like you literally need to draw blood before you would get a foul.
Yeah.
And that's, the complexion of the game has changed, but like everything else in life, it's evolving. Is it evolving on a complete fair scale? That's a whole nother conversation. We'll
Right.
talk about that later. NFL quarterbacks.
No. Well, I think you brought up a very, very good point for basketball, because basketball is a very unique sport to use as an example. Like almost every sport, those are leagues that are driven by coaches. Like baseball is like GM driven or manager driven. Basketball is still very much controlled by the players. Like if there's a situation where like a player has to go or the coach has to go, it's going to be the coach. Where football, that's not necessarily true, right? And even in some cases baseball, unless it's a Yasuo Puig in his prime, right? So you brought up a very good point, because coaches, as far as getting the level of respect, most of the people that command that respect are the former players, right? So Jordan didn't really have any excuses. He didn't have respect issues coming in. That's Michael Jordan. Like Steve Kerr, he's not Jordan, but he had enough rings where they got to kiss it too, right? And also this situation where Mark Jackson left, who was also a fantastic coach. The
Amazing.
situation fell in his lap. So it really makes me highlight people like Popovich, right? Or people like Jeff Van Gundy. All right, we'll turn back the clock a little bit.
Wow.
Or that's your team, right? Chuck Daly never dribbled the basketball in his life. Didn't even play the sport, and he's got 2 rings, right? And also coached the dream team. So to me, and I think we're going this situation. I think respect comes from giving it. Two, knowing how to manage superstars and getting superstars to play together. Like Spoelstra, Man, that guy had to go through the rung to get his respect. Like he's a Pat Riley acolyte, but I'm like, they're like, dude, LeBron James fell on your lap. You ain't no real coach until you are. And now here he is, right? Miami Heat,
Right.
a couple of years ago, right? NBA Finals, like a bunch of overachievers with Butler, right? And it looks
Yep.
like, I believe they came in as the 1 or 2 seed. This playoffs now, right?
Yeah.
For those of us
Ab-
following the NBA, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so so we had this conversation about like top five coaches in each sport, and I like Spolstra. I like Popovich because Popovich doesn't really have too many losing seasons, regardless of who he has. I like Kerr in that mix. Um,
I think
yeah.
Kerr is really making his bones now, and
Hmm.
everybody's trying to. Well, I won't say everybody, but I've heard some people hating on Golden State is just because of what they have been able to do over these last of the last 5 6 years, um, and they have a culture there. They have a dynasty. They have a great system, and
They could
you know
potentially make the finals this year, right? Don't, I mean,
listen, I'm
it's
pretty set on the fact that from the game I saw Golden State play the other night, I would be completely shocked if they don't win it all this year again.
right. Well, they got. I
And
mean, the Suns is going to be a tough finals game, just because the Suns are they're playing team ball. But
they
when
they are,
Curry starts throwing up balls after he passes half court, uh, he has one of those games where he has his foot on the line at half court and just throws it up.
it expires. Well, it's
Really?
funny.
Go ahead.
Jay, it's funny you say that because that puts me in mind of something that I came up with so long ago, and it basically goes like this, and we'll get to using Steph Curry and Michael Jordan and rest in peace Kobe and all these guys as the example, but when when is it not luck anymore? Like how many times do you have to do something before people don't call it luck?
Yeah. Well, I think
You know,
anyone that calls it luck severely misdiagnoses the situation, and they clearly show how far on the outside looking in they are. Like you're an elite athlete. Me, I've been in the sports all my life, so there are some things you and I, looking on the outside in, can see and identify because of what we experienced and what we kind of know when we see it. And I think
right,
anyone that uses the word luck too much really is a slave to the English language, and they're incapable of probably solving real problems in their life anyway. My motto is luck is for losers, but I don't necessarily believe that's true. Like
well, and I
luck
agree
to
with
me, luck is the residue of design, right? Like, do you remember? We're talking about basketball. How about Kawhi Leonard's shot 3 years ago
yeah,
against
the
the
one where
Sixers?
when he sat on the baseline out of bounds and wait and watch for it to fall in,
The
and then
whole
it just
world, and an entire
amazing,
nation called Canada, and the entire nation called Canada, looking at a big ass monitor, was like,
amazing,
"Yeah."
transcendent.
How many people call that luck? I call it a little bit of luck,
That shot was a little bit of luck, but I mean, in terms of it
but he's
hanging on the rim,
yes,
like
but
nobody
he still
practices
has to
shooting a
make that
ball.
shot.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Nobody practices a shot and
No,
it just rolling on the rim like that, right? Like, how many times can we actually practice that and redo that?
no,
But to be there in the moment, to not break down mentally, physically, emotionally, in that point in time in the game when everything was on the line, and still have the wherewithal to put the ball in the right place so it does have that opportunity to roll into the basket and get that win. It reminds me of that one match that Tiger played in years ago before all this other crazy stuff started happening. And if you're a gamer out there, you play PlayStation, Tiger Woods PGA golf or whatever it is, there was the one where he got a great shot and the ball sitting right on the edge of the cup, and it's the Nike swoosh that's pointed up, and the camera's looking at it, almost like Caddyshack, that last one with the earthquake is going right. And Tiger's ball rolls and fall. It slowly trickled its way, boop, and falls into the cup. Man, they took that moment, and it became a huge part of of PGA golf on PlayStation, Xbox, and all that stuff. And when you hit a great shot, that's what the image was on the game, which told you just made a great Tiger Woods shot. Now, my question to you is this: I don't think there's a such thing as luck. Luck only favors the skilled,
yeah,
right? And that's what I mean by like
opportunity meets preparation. Yeah,
Michael Jordan, how many times did Michael Jordan do what he did, but before people stopped calling it luck? Right. Same with Steph Curry. So to go back to what you were saying earlier, like he crossed half court and he just fires a ball up and swish and it's in. Now the joke is this: anybody else that does that, first thing we're gonna say is, dude, that's luck. You
That's the
can't do it
luckiest
again.
shot you've ever done in your life. Yes.
Absolutely. But for Steph Curry, that's just a Monday night.
Yeah.
Like it's not even a game day. Like he's literally not even thinking about it. So
Yeah.
that's what goes back to my thing about like
Do you know he did a shoot around and shot 104 straight 3-pointers in practice? 104
he
straight
made
3-pointers.
104.
Yes. I can't do 104 layups. After 18 layups, just driving, I'm going to lose focus and one might rim out, whatever. This guy
Right.
shot 104 straight threes in practice. So
See,
again, those are people like you and me that hear about practices and this and that, and you're less surprised, and you're not thinking that's luck.
right. But at the end of the day, it's you already said it. When hard work meets preparation
Mm-hmm.
and that opportunity.
Yeah.
And for Steph Curry, even if whether it's nobody on the court or he's playing in front of 55, 60,000 and it's jam packed.
Yep.
He puts in the same effort if he's in the gym by himself that he does when he's in front of 60,000 people.
No doubt.
And this is, the message that I try to give to a lot of the kids that I work with and train and coach and mentor in a variety of sports, in the strength and conditioning and in the fitness world. Like, listen, if you're not turning it on in practice every day when you're getting ready for that match, that game, that competition, how are you going to be able to turn it on when you get to that point?
Yeah. And
You
even
don't know.
and even if you are, right, how long can you sustain just getting by on talent, right? There are some guys who are not good practice players, and there's some guys who are good game players, and it's like, wow, like look no further than our club, right? For the people listening, I'm the head coach of the 13s for Flow 2 for LA Volleyball Club. This fantastic set of juniors with this amazing coaching staff. And you know what? That guy who does conditioning and strength, he ain't too shabby either. I mean, his name escapes me right now, but
He's okay.
yeah. Hold on once. Let's see if we could take a look at that winning shot actually for Kawhi. So
Oh, you got it?
yeah, let's do it.
Look right there.
Let's go back. Actually, let's go back. I want to go back 10 seconds. There it is. So here it is. Boom. That's just ridiculous. That is just ridiculous. And look, the robot feels. I mean, Kawhi is a pretty emotionless person, right? I mean,
Right.
and not in a bad way. I mean, that's the way he knows how to play his sport successfully, right? And Tim Duncan, right? Those are types of players
The
whose
big fundamental.
success is guided by that. But I was like, I just saw the robot feel. So as far as youth sports are concerned, you were going on to something. Because I wanted to bring that back about good practice habits, leading you to in game situations where. Well, first of all, physically you can do it because you practice it over and over and over, but also psychologically, right? If you've done it that many times, it's not something you're going to think about in the game. Because if you think about it, you're probably you might miss it. Like Jordan, right? Like almost every winning shot that guy's had, or any winning shot anyone's had, any winning pass, any winning catch in football. This is not like something like, I thought this through, or time slowed down and I was thinking, don't drop this. Though sometimes those are stories, but it comes from just not mindless, but endless reps of doing it the right way or whatever. And
That's it.
Floor is yours.
You just hit it right there, Jay. It's endless reps, and it's not so much endless. It's we push the envelope,
Right.
and that's what real sports and competition, in my most humble opinion, is about. Pushing the envelope. We don't want to necessarily play down or have easy matches, because at the end of the day, how am I getting better as a player, as a person in competition? I'm not. And that's what I think has made guys like Michael Jordan, again, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, the Larry Birds, obviously Magics. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. And these guys found a way to keep that competitive edge, whether it was in practice, whether it was just them and their trainer by themselves on the court, shooting, going through drills, or they're actually in competition. And the hardest thing for youth to do is, visualization. And
Yeah. Yep.
being able to focus and just continue and repeatedly over and over and over do the same little things, the little things, the little things, and I do a lot of sports specific training in terms of football. Obviously that was my vehicle of choice, even though I played all sports in high school. Um, and I tell some of my kids who play quarterback, like, oh man, we got to throw out routes again, or we got to throw in routes again. And my answer to that is, let me ask you, how many out routes do you think Tom Brady has thrown? And they get
Yeah.
quiet and they don't have an answer. I'm like, how many out routes do you think Russell Wilson has thrown? And I said, at the end of the day, when you get to a certain level in sports, and it's okay now, we're playing like, the lowest of the lowest in terms of park and rec, and we're kind of getting our feet wet as kids. There's coaches on the court, and we're moving people where they're supposed to be. We're kind of guiding them through this process. But if we're doing sports for real, you touched on it earlier. If you have to think to yourself, I need to be there, you're late. You'll never make that play. Sorry, and that's just the essence of sports. And in some regions and areas, everybody knows about high school football in Texas. I mean, it's one of the most highly touted areas in the
It's
U.S.
religion. It's religion.
It's religion. A buddy of mine, I had him on my radio show, and he transferred from here. He moved to Texas, and he actually played at Odessa Permian. For those of you who may not know, Odessa Permian is one of the schools that was highlighted in Varsity Blues,
Right.
that they played against. And he showed me a picture of their high school football stadium. Holds 20,000 people, man.
Yeah.
20,000.
Anytime you go to a town and you're trying to, let's say you're trying to get a haircut at the barber shop, or maybe you're trying to get a quick cup of coffee or whatever in this, and the sign on the door says closed for football. That's a religion.
It's a religion. You know what? I'll tell you, the first time I actually experienced that was in 1991.
Yeah. You
And
played remind our audience, Washington,
yeah,
right? University of Washington.
I was on a full football scholarship to University of Washington. I was there from 90 to March of 95 is when I came out and went to pursue my professional career. Um, and in 91, I'll tell you this, like when I was there, I was so blessed to be there with the group of people that I was with. And even these guys, I mean, phenomenal talents on the field, even better people off the field. But one thing that we all had in common that a lot of other places didn't is the amount of work ethic that we put in. Like it was football 24 and some more. And that's how we got down. But that's what also brought us the accolades that we had at Washington in that early 90 run. I was there for 4.5 years, roughly 5 years. One played in three Rose Bowls, won two of them, one of them a national championship, and three Pac-10 titles. Yeah, I'm gonna work hard every day of the week and twice on Sunday if I can come away with that. But that's the beauty of it is part of the work ethic that we put out into these things. We still don't know if we're gonna win or not, right? We don't know what's gonna happen in terms of competition and where we're gonna fall in the rankings. But ultimately, in terms of the kids and the youth that are listening and may see this, you're going to always win because you're learning something and you're building something that's going to help you for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Showing up early and leaving late, doing the extra work, working when you're a little bit tired. I mean, you can't go in the corporate world and show up late and leave early and then get mad when you don't get a promotion. Like, that's not how
Yeah.
it works, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Or look the other way when you get laid off.
or look the other way, right? Like, yeah, like unfortunately, it doesn't go that way.
Right.
Um,
I agree with that in the sense that any kid, whether it's let's say it's jiu-jitsu class, right? Let's say
yep.
it's Piano class. For my wheelhouse, of course, it's volleyball, and our wheelhouse is just sports and sports in general. I
Absolutely.
think the discipline of being at a certain place, knowing that other people are counting on you to be on time, you're counting for them to be on time, where you have to do something in this collective effort, and this can't be two better sports than indoor volleyball and football. I'll tell you the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
just talk about ultimate team games where like all of these moving parts, and no matter how like less important someone thinks their part is at that time, it's uber important. I mean, look, I've been coaching for 22 years, and this is 13's group. This is the youngest group I ever coach, and
Really.
I have not seen a team in quite some time, almost a decade, where it takes everyone on the roster to win matches. Like I'm gonna coach some teams, right? And I got some really bomb outside hitters, or I got an oppo that we could just set every ball and he could take us home. Or I got someone who's served the space as good. Maybe you have two or three players that have that, but this is the first team I coached probably since 2014. And that team wasn't college either. That was a high school team, but that it took everyone to win. And I love this team because of that. Because it takes everybody, and so there are people that want more playing time, right? Because they're in the bottom of the roster, and of course, club you got to deal with parents, right? Parents could be cantankerous, and this because every parent is convinced that their kid's better than they are. I mean, and that's
Yes,
and
they
I'm
are.
saying that while we're recording. So hold on a second. Yeah, I said it. I had to look at my camera. Yeah, I said it. But I think when parents look back retrospectively, and hopefully the kids do too, they do realize, especially on a team like this, how important their role was. So like you said, there's this discipline that sets you up for how you're supposed to behave in life. All right, on a basic mammal function, but like you said, the more competitive the program, and the more you put in, the more it better prepares you for intense situations in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean,
Uh, you can't say it enough. I mean, it's funny. I've experienced that exact thing with parents, believing that their child was better than they were. And
that's
one of the
club.
har-
In
right, it's
California,
quite,
club is big in California, and that's club.
it's huge, and I'm learning that. This is my first year. We know I was just talking with Coach Jason Olive from LAVBC the other day, and I
There we
was
go,
I was
Jay.
saying, like we're coming up on a year in terms of me being involved with the program and director of strength and conditioning for the girls, and I can tell initially, and one thing I didn't want to do because I know my energy is off the charts when I show up and it's time to go, and I'm really in a team environment. Like Coach Lewis is an acquired taste. I'll be the first to tell you right now, I am an acquired taste, no
You
doubt
should
about
have
it.
your own cable channel. Well, you got your sports talk show, but I mean, but for you to physically show who you are and your presence that commands the room, dude, everyone would tune in, and everyone would tune in for that. But go ahead.
I hope I mean that would be an amazing opportunity if something were like that were to come about. But if, the first time that I meet a group of youngsters, be it male or female, it doesn't really matter. Um, the biggest thing is I have to show up on fire with energy. Because if I don't, especially not knowing who I have yet, if I don't show up on fire and ready to go, no way I can expect them to be ready to go. And even so, they could be, but I don't know what their ready to go is.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're learning about one another in that respect. But going back to parents thinking their kids are better than they are, and again, I think that's part of the issue with where the world has come today, especially with youth sports and just the youth in general, is this whole thing about inclusion. I'm all about inclusion and including people when they're supposed to be included. And if we're putting in the work with anything, if we're putting in the work, we're putting in the time, and we're being honest about where we are, and we keep our mind open and never really take it personal. Because as a coach, I have a job to do. As a player, you have a job to do. And one thing I like about club is, listen, if you're not performing, if you're not dotting the I's and crossing the T's, I'm going to push you off to the side and have somebody else come in. And that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, that's the LA Volleyball Club way, man. That's yeah.
right?
That's
But you
Jason
know,
Olive. That's you. That's yeah. Go ahead. Sorry,
but that, no,
Kamalu.
no, no. But you're good because you know
Mhm.
we go back to school when we were in school. You know, you had the big overhead projectors, and you could just pull the one sheet off and put another overlay on top of there, right? So with that said, that's again what happens in life as well, real life outside of sports. You know, again, going back to my reference earlier, like you can't show up late and leave early and then get mad because you don't get a promotion or you get a raise. It's not how it works.
No.
And in sports, you know, when you're in the right situation as a coach, when you're in the right situation as a player, and we marry those together, you already know that you have to show up early, not on time. You got to show up early. You got to put the work in because the person behind you is so close to you that if you mess up on any level, and they
Whoosh.
get an opportunity to come in, you may never get that spot back.
Nope.
Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady. I'm just saying,
Yes,
like,
that's a very,
huh.
very good. And Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady is a very good example. You know.
And I mean, that's the epitome of somebody doing the work, hanging off in the back, in the cut, and was drafted in the sixth round back in the day, right? And
Yeah.
everybody talks about
There were
that the whole
six
time.
quarterbacks drafted before him. Yeah.
I mean, so you talk about a guy having something to prove, and he's still. And I don't know Tom Brady personally. I'm a huge fan, but I don't know him personally. But in my head, the way he's still playing and putting in the extra work, right? Not performing on the field. I'm talking about everything he does off the field.
Yeah, that's not just genetics. He's not even like he's
Not
not even
genetics at
like a
all.
genetically physically gifted quarterback.
No,
He's just a killer.
he's just a killer. But at the end of the day, he's the last of a dying breed, in my humble opinion, in terms of
100%.
the NFL prototypical quarterback, in
Yeah,
terms of
because he wouldn't
size.
even be picked. He wouldn't even be looked at. Like
No, he's not
his
athletic
body
enough.
type, his speed, what he did on the 40 was laughable.
Laughable.
You're right, but maybe not because I'll give you an example. Like basketball, we're talking about basketball, right? Like LeBron
Yep.
James, there are some things LeBron James does on that court that the average person with like a different body type and their wildest dreams can't do. Even on LeBron's worst day, some people can't do. Then you look at someone like Steph Curry, right? Look, they can't do what Steph Curry does, but when you look at Steph Curry's average body type and his ball handling and like his physicality,
Right.
it makes everyone his size work harder to try to defeat those stereotypes, right? Like, and look,
Absolutely.
and in my wheelhouse, and again, I mean, you and I can talk about Tom Brady because he's opened up his life enough where we can say we know a lot about him. We don't know him
Sure.
personally. I don't know if him and Giselle get along, right? I mean,
Right. Like,
right?
for real.
We don't know what was really on that phone when he didn't tell people I don't want to show you my phone, right? I have my own conspiracy theory about that, but that is a whole other story. It's like,
That's
show me your
funny.
phone, man. You better go kick rocks. You ain't touching my phone.
I mean,
I just want to see it. I'll give it back. No.
I mean, in Tom's defense, how many people just hand their phone over to let people look through their phone though?
Thank
Anyway,
you. And they don't know.
like that,
And
you
on the
know. I mean,
CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, everyone knew he wasn't required to do that. That was just ridiculous. And
yeah,
he cooperated in every other facet too. But
you
what
know, but it's because he's winning too
yeah.
much. I've heard people tell me they don't like Tom Brady because he wins too much and he looks too good. Like that, I
No.
need a better reason.
Well, I will speak more to my wheelhouse, which I'd like to call myself an expert.
Yeah, absolutely.
In juniors, and I've done all kinds of age groups, even though 13 is my first. There are a lot of coaches that line up these kids against the wall, right? And coach, big up Brian McDermott because you brought this to my attention, and I'll make it with his sentiment, which is mine too. Line up these kids against the wall, right? You're tall. You're probably going to play middle. You want to play outside hitter? Forget it. You can't. No, just this. That's realistic, and it pisses me the f off because, and I'm not saying the f word because I know our kids are going to watch us. It
Right.
pisses me the f off to tell a 13-year-old who's not finished growing physically, psychologically, her mental faculties, like all of your chakra buildup, right? From a toddler to a teen to a teen to a young adult to a full adult. How dare you? Right? This person is not fully grown, and you're already, before they can even reach an age of some kind of consent, you're already telling them what they can and can't do 5 years before they even hit 18 years old, right? And go out on their own. It pisses me off because you're not allowing that kid to challenge himself. Now, guys like you and me, and I think I'm gonna speak for you on this one. I'm gonna give you the floor in a minute.
Go for it.
Let's say there's a girl who's 5'6" or 5'7", 5'8", right? But college players, college outside hitters are like 6 feet, 6'1", or and the guys are a different category. Forget it. Those are like 6'5"ers, right? Even though the best players are 6'1", like Taylor Crabb from the beach player
Yeah.
when he played indoor at Long Beach State, he was player of the year and he's 6'1". So anyway, what I would do, I would go to that girl and I'd be like, look, I ain't gonna lie to you. Some pretty big girls in that position, but if this is what you want, I want you to talk to Coach Lou. Let's get on that box. Let's talk about jump training. Let's get your physicality to a point where any coach's level of concern about your size, because size in volleyball just means reach, how high you can jump, and then your reach, how long are your arms, so the total reach, right? Like I'm 6'1", but my wingspan's 6'8", so I'm surviving that big man's world. So I'm a walking group hug. So right, yeah, just kind of like look at it. Watch this, ready? Oh, look at that!
That's
Oh,
hilarious.
just it comes from outside the screen. But what I would tell the girl, and again, I want to give you the floor in a minute. What I would tell her is, realistically, there's not a whole lot of girls in that position like you. But if you want it bad enough, I can help you. If you want it bad enough. So I would tell her, one, that, and two, make sure you train for another position. Cross train, always leave yourself open for other positions, all right? So this is how you meet these coaches in the middle or whatever. And because I've seen too many examples of people who don't fit that stereotype or who don't fit that prototypical build and have had a great level of success. Karch Cry, best player to ever play the game, 6'1", right? Bob Sturvert, one of the best passers in the tournament, 6'4", right? Taylor Crabb, who's right now the best American player in the AVP, and I could say that comfortably now that Phil's part-time and then Jay Gibbs retired. Maybe his brother Trevor, but 6'1" in the big man's game.
Right.
You just brought up on a different level. Sorry, volleyball. Sorry, beach volleyball. But you just brought up Tom Brady on a different level. No
Right.
disrespect to them, but that's not just champ shit. that's that's
Right.
that's
Right.
that's ridiculous. So I wanted to give the floor back to you because you opened it up with a good example. And how much do you think does that apply to youth as far as telling kids what they can and can't do and presenting them realistically what their options are and the challenges around that? I'd like for you to comment on that.
That's a real good question there. And all of those guys that you mentioned, from the volleyball world to the basketball world, with
Yep.
the LeBron Jameses and the Steph Currys, and then Tom Brady, of course, being the pinnacle in terms of football, with what he's been able to do for as long as he's been doing it. He's the oldest guy to ever play in the history of the NFL, and he's still playing. I mean, me ideally, I think he can play too, as long as he keeps his back clean.
Yeah.
Um, Everything else is working on all cylinders. I mean, and there's a lot of 21, 22, 23 year olds that would love to be able to sling it like Tom Brady does at 44, 45,
Yeah.
whatever he is now.
Yep.
Um,
Does that go back to your what you were talking about preparation? Like there's some people who do good things in a game that they don't practice, but how long does that last? And do you think it lasts longer because Tom Brady's just more prepared?
he's I I genuinely believe he is beyond well prepared. And playing on this level at as high of a level as he has been playing on for 20 plus years, you don't do that unless you're doing every other thing behind the scenes that you have to do, and then creating more things that you need to do just to be completely prepared. So saying that is, and what I mean by that is, there's not a defensive coordinator in the game that can throw something at Tom Brady that he hasn't seen multiple times over.
Yep. And that's preparedness.
And that's preparedness. And again, he's so. I tell people nowadays, I say, listen, the reason the Patriots were so good at what they did when Tom Brady was there is because you in essence had two of the best in the game at their craft. Bill Belichick, who is, he's obviously going to go into the Hall of Fame. He's a defensive
First ballot.
mastermind.
Yeah.
He is the greatest defensive coach, I think, in the history of the game. My humble opinion.
Yeah.
And
First
then you
first
have
ballot.
You had the greatest offensive coordinator on the other side of the ball, who just happens to be the starting quarterback in Tom Brady.
Right.
Right. And people don't understand that. Like, here's a guy, aside from all the physical talent in terms of being able to throw the ball where it needs to be thrown and throwing his guys open, the mental aspect of the game. He was just on so much of a whole nother level. He was, in essence, an offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And he stayed in his lane. To take a line from LeVar Ball, Tom Brady stayed in his lane. Bill Belichick stayed in his lane, and together they drove down the street of championship.
Yep.
And that was the beautiful thing about that. In terms of youth sports, you know, again, it's the commitment level and finding out how serious some of these kids really are. Some of them, they've been brought up and groomed into it, and that's all that they know. So it's not really saying commit to them, because it's just a way of life to them, right? That's it. It runs in the family or close friends or someone that they're closely connected with has been doing this or running that circuit, whatever, in whatever area of volleyball, basketball, baseball, football, whatever it may be. And they have that nest of knowledge and work ethic. They're immersed in it from day one. And then there are the other kids who are, naturally, bigger, faster, stronger, who, again, in terms of the eye test, right, they look like, oh man, if this person does this, he's going to get there just, on size alone. And there's a lot of flops,
Yep.
and again, we've had guys, win the dunk contest who are, 5'4".
Right. Spud Webb. It was like five
So
six, 5'8". Yeah.
right,
Nate Robinson. Yeah.
again, that's a,
Just don't
Husky
put him in a
alumni right
boxing
there.
ring, dude.
Oh, sometimes you just gotta know when to say when. Again, going back to LeVar Ball, to stay in your lane.
Yeah. Nah, Nate's just saw like this soft white dude who's a YouTuber and got face planted when he didn't know this YouTuber has been training, for years. I mean, years on in, and he was just looking for easy fights so he could make money. So
Right. I
and
don't even know how much. I don't even know how much Nate got for that, and it's
no,
not really my
no.
business. But I hope it was enough that it can fix those wounds.
Yeah, we were
For,
authentically worried. Like I saw the way he face planted, the way he got dropped, and I was like, because some people get knocked out, and they come around. I'm like,
I
dude,
gotta tell
Nate,
you,
are you okay?
hey, look, I didn't watch that fight, but my phone started blowing up when things went south,
Yeah.
and I looked down, and I was like, oh, that sucks. He got beat up like that, but then the selfish side of me was like, yo, wait a minute.
How'd you think that was gonna turn out, right? Yeah.
No, well, the selfish side of me in the sense of he just made all Husky football players look soft. And I heard something. From somebody. I don't know how true this is, so please don't quote me, but I have to say it because it's really funny. They say before the fight, the word was he was texting a bunch of people, Nate Robinson was, and I think he had texted Steph Curry. Actually, it was just like, it's about to go down. I'm about to show them basketball players. Woo. And then the inevitable happened.
Yeah. I mean, look, remember when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather?
Yes.
How did everyone think that was going to turn out? Look, Conor McGregor walks around probably like 175. So when he was fighting at 145 and 155, he was cutting like MMA guys. They cut a trailer load of water weight. Where like Floyd, Floyd, he loses that weight not in the tub or not in the sauna. He loses that weight either during training or
Right.
that's his walking around weight. I can't even picture in my mind Floyd ever being walking around 170 and cutting weight to get to
You know what?
156.
It's
How did they? My question was, how did they think Floyd? It was the first time we've ever seen Floyd walk someone down, and Floyd carried that fight. He allowed him to hit him.
we all know Floyd's bag is defense.
Yes, but that was
Like
the
good luck.
first fight we saw him walk him down. Because
Like,
most of the time you just see Floyd get in, boom, 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 and when you try to hit him,
back out, right.
he's gone, and that's his sweet science. So
Floyd took it to him, and that's because I think from what I understand, I didn't watch that fight either, but I think Floyd might have caught one, or Connor might have got one off on Floyd, and it pissed him off.
Yes.
And he's like, okay, you want to you okay, yo, now you want the business. So here,
Yeah.
let me make it clear to you that you are out of your league. This is not your realm. Stay over there, because if you come over here, this is what's going to happen to you. Bop, 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 bop.
Well, for fighters, and I can only speak on the MMA thing because that's my enthusiasm, and that's also my wheelhouse. For fighters, you know, in the first round when whether you block a hit or when someone tags you and you roll with it, once you feel their power, because first round everybody's fresh, right, and power doesn't wane, right? So Connor caught him the first round and second round like with an uppercut, and he snapped his head back, and when Floyd felt the power, he was upset he got hit because he doesn't get hit. But at the same time, he had this big old smile on his face. Like the whole time, everyone's talking about this guy's power. Oh, once he feels his power, he's going to go down. And you took this clean uppercut from Connor. And when he felt it, I think in his mind, he was like, I'm good. That's it. That was it. Right. That was the fight. That was the one punch Connor, right? That was the left that was supposed to drop me. I'm good. Right. In fact, let me carry this guy 7 more rounds and see if he gets tired, because the only fights I've seen Connor lose were fights where guys dragged him into deep water where they had the gas tank to swim and he didn't. AKA Khabib Nurmagomedov. It was an absolute mauling. Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to throw myself under the bus off of that reference point that you used about getting drugged into deep water.
Yeah.
Because I don't swim.
Yeah.
Listen, let me clear something up, people. It's not a black thing. I just never learned how to swim.
That's a black thing.
It could be.
Look, my mom's black, my father's white, so I'm mixed, right? Where I can swim if I need to live. I ain't out there trying to beat nobody.
That's hilarious.
I ain't trying to beat nobody. I ain't out there trying to swim with sharks, scuba dive, and pet sharks. Come on, let's have fun. No,
I'm good.
No, emergency snack.
I see you when you get back.
Yes,
I look good next to the pool.
You want to be someone else's emergency snack. Go ahead, be my guest.
Real quick, because I don't want to lose this for people, but I want to go back and make another reference to that Conor McGregor and Floyd fight.
Mm-hmm.
It put me in the mind of an older movie, to see if you know the movie that I'm talking about, with Damon Wayans, and Samuel L. Jackson was in it as well. And it was a boxing movie, The Great White Hype.
Great White Hype.
The Great White Hype.
Oh, you saw the way he came in at the weigh-ins.
Oh my gosh. That's one of the best depictions,
dude. I gotta find a picture.
In terms of a contrast between, without the extremities of the Great White Hype, but just the actual foundation of it. Getting this guy to come and he needed to fight somebody, and they put these two together, and he had no business staying in the ring with James the Grim Reaper Roper, and coincidentally hit him with that overhand left or whatever it was. But he stung him good, like Connor got Floyd. And he went up.
That's how he came in on the weigh-ins. What's up? Yo,
that's the best.
He was looking for some Krispy Kreme sponsor, but go ahead. No, finish your sentence. I hope I didn't break your flow by showing you that picture.
No, you might have, but it's okay because that's what it's about. Like if anybody's seen that movie, then you'll get the reference, and that's the essence of what happened with Connor and Floyd. Is except Connor was just Connor's a mouth in his own, and he's going to talk a lot of trash, and he's definitely that alpha like that.
Yep.
And he's going to put it out there, and he's not.
He's great for the sport. Yep.
He's great for the sport, and Floyd as well too. And I mean, at the end of the day, no matter where you are in the line. And this goes back to youth sports as well, to kind of tie it all together, because I love that we're having fun with this, but I don't want the message to be lost. Listen, people, if it's worth having, it's worth working for. And that's on all fronts, on every level of sports. And with our youth sports, again, I'm not big on coddling kids. I'm not big on, including in terms of, I'm not going to give you a participation trophy. Like, I don't believe in that. Like, if you want a trophy, go win. That's the way it goes. That's the way that I was raised. That's the way that I was groomed, and I'll never forget the first time in competitive sports. For me, it was like 8 teams in the league, 10 teams, and we came into place low enough that we did not get a trophy. But this is 40 years ago, and they had the trophy ceremony with all the teams there. Like you saw the winners getting their trophies, and the losers just sat there and just watched. And I asked the coach, one of our coaches, I was like, "Hey man, like, coach, like, where's our trophy?" And he literally told me straight to my face. He said, "You want a trophy?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Okay, win." And I didn't have a rebuttal to that. I was like, okay, so am I getting a trophy? He's like, "No, you lost. You don't get nothing for losing. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how this works."
Yep. Yeah.
And that puts such a nasty taste in my mouth and in my gut. But in the same respect, it lit something under me that I have never let go. And that still to this day, 40 years later, rings into my head. If I want to be acknowledged for whatever it is that I'm doing, I need to go out and dot all the I's and cross all the T's. I need to show up early, leave late, ask the right questions. And if I don't understand the answers, ask another question.
Yeah.
And then put the work in. And again, we're lucky that with the volleyball club team, at least it appears to me, and you would know better than I would, Jay, because you've been with them longer, but it appears to me most of our parents, most being 98%, I will say,
I like that number.
they don't contradict what's being taught and how we train and coach our kids. Because I've noticed through the years, a lot of times the parent always knows best, even though the parent has no background in what we're doing, they know better. And it's contradictory and it stops the kid's growth. Or the kid is experiencing something physically that they've never experienced before, and they swear that their body's about to fall apart and they're going to die. And some of the parents will, hey, we got to pull back on the kids. They're feeling this or they're feeling that. Or my kid was, they were emotionally hurt because they were so sore. It's that, listen, this is part of the process. And again, with the parents that we have, it appears to me that most of them support what's happening during practice, in the games, the conversations that we're having one-on-one with these kids, and basically calling the kids out and reprimanding these kids for when they're not performing up to par, be it practice or in a match.
I
Uh,
also, but don't you think good coaching has a lot to do with that too? Like
oh,
coaches, like the
absolutely.
way kids leave practice, they can't wait to come to the next practice. When
Yeah.
practice is over, well, I'm like, all right, we got to break down. They're like, oh, what?
Right.
What? So the coaching in LA Volleyball Club, and this is weird because it's not like one way to skin a cat. You got
No.
Coach Kamalu, right? I don't know. I keep
Amazing.
forgetting her last name. You got Jason Olive, All American, University of Hawaii, absolute savage. You got me, who's been doing this half his life. And those are just three examples. But you will, as far as styles of coaching, you will not find three people who are more infinitely different
Right.
than the three of us. But the net result, and I don't want you to lose your train of thought because you were getting on
No,
to
no.
something bigger than what I was talking about. But the net result is these kids can't wait to learn. and when a kid does that, and when I leave practice, you know what I do? Whatever a lesson plan, because I actually have written lesson plans for 3 weeks. I'll pull out my paperwork and I start looking at it again. Because I'm like, dude, I got them. Now I got to stay. We always like to pride ourselves on staying sharp, but it
Right.
makes you take a second look to make sure you're giving the kids the very best of you. Something you always feel like you do anyway, but it makes you triple check if you're a double checker.
Oh, for sure. I like
Yeah.
that. Look, and it's true. And that's the one thing for me, Jay, is I know for a fact I'm tough on kids. Like my expectations are high and through the roof. And
Historical
it's
fact.
that way. Yeah, I mean, again, it's that way because one, that's what was expected of me. But two, through the years of coaching and working with different types of mental capacities of kids, kids from different, social backgrounds, neighborhoods. Um, when we all come together on that court, I can care less where you're from or who your parents are. We are now all the same. And if we want to achieve the same things, which I'm assuming we do because we're all here, then that requires a certain work ethic. It requires a certain mentality. It requires a certain commitment level.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're all, again, we all bring different things to the table. Part of my job as the strength and conditioning coach is to pull everything out of you. So we are prepared physically for whatever we may have to endure to get to that next level. And because we don't know what that entails, and this is one of the great things about volleyball that I really love and I miss in terms of sports. When you take the clock out of the equation and you have to literally finish this match, like this, you can't hold the ball and just run the clock out, or you can't just go and take a
Yes,
knee.
there's no keep away ball in volleyball.
There's no keep away ball. You got to finish this thing. It's
You have to
the
reach.
same thing with baseball. Love baseball for that right there. You want it, come get it. It's here. Now,
No, but
can you
even in baseball, you can have a 1-0 lead, play defense, and survive the bottom of the ninth. Volleyball, you have to reach a certain. You can't get to 22 in a 25-point game and be like, be up 22-16 or whatever and be like, nah, hey, it's a cakewalk from here. No,
Absolutely.
And the
But
deeper you are in the
even
playoffs, the more that team's looking for a way to come back. Sorry, go ahead.
absolutely, absolutely, and that right there for me is the epitome because you can't you have to play until it's done.
Yep.
Um, and that's the mentality that I try to train in terms of the Los Angeles Volleyball Club. That's the mentality that I'm trying to give our girls. I'm like, listen, we're just a niche on a very big totem pole at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like we have no idea what's happening over here on the other side of town or over here in Northern Cal. And that's just California. What about the rest of the country? So how do we prepare for that? We have to give everything that we have,
Yeah.
keep it ever evolving, keep it always challenging, because again, we don't know who we're going to see on the other side of that net and who we're
Yep.
going to see.
I
And
also, I mean, yeah. Ooh, no.
no, go, please go. Finish
Um,
that.
And that goes all the way to this conversation me and other coaches have on something called controllables, right? All right, so for everybody listening at home, we can talk about on-court controllables, right? Like serve, no one can make you miss, right? In system setting, if you get a perfect pass, the other team can't make you set poorly, right? Down ball, free ball, anything that's up and down with a 6-man roster, if it goes up and down, with 6 people on the court, no way that ball should drop. So these are things you're always going to control slightly more, and there's some things you're going to have 100% control. With that being said, what you're talking about is something that goes beyond that. Off the court control, right? The other team can't make you not do extra reps. The other team can't make you not be physically prepared with the gym time and this and that. The other team can't make you develop habits where you're talking, you're calling for the ball, free, mine, this, that, set as front row, set as back row. Those are things the other team can't. They can't make you shut up, right? The other team can't make a coach be less prepared for what's going to happen in a real game. Like, for example, Jason and I on defense, digging drills, we kind of hit our kids pretty hard. We hit our kids almost in an adult, like the speed of the ball, almost like adults. And Jason will be the first one to tell you, and I keep using his name because we had this great conversation about it. He told me this funny story. There's nothing that our kids should see in a game that they already haven't seen in practice.
100%.
Going back to this whole champ thing, we're not going back to the pro thing. Let's stick with the kids. But using the pros as an example, but back to the kids. Jason Olive, fun story. He was serving like really competitive serve to space, and he's like, dude, sooner or later, the more we keep winning, the more we're gonna face girls who don't have any holes, who are just good, and they jump a little higher, they hit a little harder. And if you've seen it here, you're not gonna be in a game like, wow, what was that?
Right.
So, but you know what happened though? Jason went to a tournament and he said there was a girl who served to space. The girl let off a bunch of serves that not even Jason did in practice. He said, just when I got done saying, this girl comes along and her serve was game changing. He told me the funniest story and I'm like, oh God, sometimes you're running into those too.
That's well, and That's the whole funny thing right there.
Mm.
And it's one thing when the coaches are running the practice and getting the kids acclimated to what they may see. But this is one of the things that I allude to, especially in youth sports, and it's really a big deal in youth sports because we might not have the numbers in terms of people on the roster to simulate that, right? And obviously, if we don't have a lot of numbers, we might not have a lot of those freakish athletes who are youth, right? Again, they're everywhere, but there's pockets of them, right? We never know how many we're going to have here, there. So how do you prepare for that? That's where, as a team, obviously, we can't teach height. I can't teach courage. But what I can teach you is how to attack. What I can teach is how to be relentless. What I can teach is how to be stronger, how to play with no fear per se. Like, not don't worry about the outcome of the play. Just go and do your best to make the play. Like, I
Right.
can give you all of that. But that's where practice and how we approach one another in terms of teammates in practice is such a huge variable to transitioning into competition. And just to give the listeners and the followers an example that they can something tangible that they can understand, there was a time where in terms of college football, it's the best example for me to give. In college football, Nebraska was notorious for having the most walk-ons every year coming out for their program. And then, of course, the Ohio States and the Notre Dames and the Michigans, right? But Nebraska at one point, they had over 150, upwards of 200 walk-ons every year. And this is just walk-ons, not even the team that's coming back. Just people that just want an opportunity to line up to be the dummy offense or defense for the nucleus of the team who's going to be playing on Saturday to practice against.
Yep.
So imagine what that energy and tempo and competition is like. And that was one of the things, to fast forward for us at Washington, when I was playing at Washington to go on that good run, the practices that we had were so intense. It was like a game every day. So when Saturday came, there wasn't nothing that we hadn't seen in practice that week for 4 times that week already. Just that week, not counting the whole year, but
No,
that
yeah.
week that we are not already prepared for. And I'll tell you, Jay, that's one of my biggest. If I had one thing to pick, that's the hardest thing for me to get across to our youth in all sports, from LAVBC to the kids I work with in high school football, some that are branched off to college now, and even my youngsters. I have 2 boys. My youngest just turned 6 a week ago. Happy birthday, little man! And
Nice.
my oldest is turning 8 July 21st. So I've been coaching little league, volunteer little league baseball coach for the last 3 4
So that
years.
that big kid is 6 years old.
Just turned 6, bro.
Wow. Okay.
Just turned 6,
Wow, man.
and
Yeah.
I'm so
No, but
blessed. And
he's gonna be huge. He's
you
gonna
know,
be huge.
if he's just I just want him to be just a positive
Hmm.
member of society,
Yep.
and give him the ability to be multi-talented, multifaceted in a variety of things, and let him choose what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And then my job is to just make sure that he can do that.
I hope they
Uh,
wind up like you. I hope they wind up close. I mean, you always want your kids to be better than you, right? Because that's how we are as fathers. We're
that's the way
like,
it's
dude,
supposed to
don't be
be.
like me. Dude, be better than me.
No, be
But
better than me.
but if
Exactly.
let's say they're not better than you and they wind up like you, that's still a win. Like you're the type of guy that everyone wants their daughter to date and don't want their son to fight. All right, it is like it's a true
That-
American whatever. A quick
that's
question about
a,
Washington. Who was your coach? Who was the head coach of Washington at that time?
I was so fortunate. I played under Don James, and then it progressed to Jim Lambright.
Jim
So
Lambright.
I
Okay.
I played for the Dog Father himself,
Okay.
and then I played for Jim Lambright, who at the time was one of the greatest defensive coordinators in college football, in the game. And just a whole host of coaches that was there. Keith Gilbertson was our offensive coordinator, who was the OC for the Seattle Seahawks for a long time. Ron Milas was my actual defensive back coach, and he just he did a long stint with the Chargers. He was with the Chargers for 10 years. Did 2 years with Las Vegas, and now he's continuing his coaching career with the Indianapolis Colts.
Nice.
coincidentally enough, I was fortunate to have him on my show, and Gus Bradley popped in for a second, so I got a quick cameo from Gus Bradley, which was amazing as well. But uh, these coaches and these mentors that I've had, even just as a child, is part of the reason why I like doing what I do with youth, with kids, males, females, anyone that wants to, you know, push themselves and just be just a better person physically, mentally, emotionally, because the physical side of the training, it it works hand in hand with the mental side, and the emotional side of who we are just as a person, what we are inspiring to be. If we really want to take it a step further, into another realm, fitness and training, how we train affects our daily lives, right? And there's a saying where, some people don't want to train early in the morning, and it's too hard. I don't want to get up, but it's even more difficult if case you're unaware, depending upon what you do for a career. If you're in sales and you're on the phone all day and you're hammering out orders on the computer, or you're a technical guy and you're sedentary in your job, you realize how much more difficult it is to get up and go train and work out after you've spent 8, 10, 12
Yeah.
hours a day in the office.
Yep.
It's so difficult. Moreover, the risk of injury goes up because we don't have enough blood flow into the brain,
Yep.
which means we're not going to be that attentive to what we're doing in the gym when we're training in the evening time. Thus, risk of injury goes up.
Yes, for anyone listening, that is equivalent to, let's say you're coaching a game, right? And you're coaching for 3 hours, and then after the 3 hours out, you actually have to get on the court and play. You're stiff as a board, right? Because you're in this position, right? Yeah, and the blood flow, like you said, the blood flow is different. It is, as far as risk for injury, and as far as like, man, I went from someone that wanted to play into I just want to get through this. I don't think I want to
Right.
do. I think
Right.
I just want to go home. I don't want to do this right now. So, yeah, very very well said.
I mean, just so I don't forget, on the flip side of that, people, it has been proven that if you train earlier in the morning and you stay consistent, you will thus find yourself having more sustained energy in the latter part of your day,
Yes. Yep.
meaning your work production goes up.
Yeah.
Right? It's no different than eating a bunch of bad, high carb, processed food in your lunch break in the middle of the day. Then you go back to work, and now we're in that food coma, right? And
Yeah.
you just kind of staring at the computer screen. You're kind of getting the nods off, or you're not that into closing that sales call. Is because all the blood has rushed from the brain to the stomach to help try to break down all of this heavy, thick carb, sugary food. So if we don't have as much blood flow going to the brain, it means you're not going to think as efficiently or as effectively. It's
Yeah.
been proven as well. If you think I'm lying, go Google it, check it out. It's
Nah,
real.
I mean, that should be
Which is,
common knowledge at this point, right? I
it
mean,
you
yeah.
would think.
Yeah.
I tell you what's not common knowledge anyway either is I tell these kids, I say, listen, I wish you grew up when we were growing up and try to do a book report with no internet, and you got to go to the library and use that damn Dewey Decimal System.
I mean, Jesus, yeah. I
Oh my
mean,
goodness gracious!
yeah, when I graduated college, because I was a returning adult student, I was at the tail end of that. Like, I graduated 2007.
Okay.
I did a whole bunch of stuff before that. I'm a Gulf War vet, U.S. Army.
Oh my gosh, man.
Tried the whole school thing out one time, dropped out. I wanted to play NCAA volleyball. My major was volleyball. Right? I didn't really go to class, but
Right.
then 2007, this is when people started using the internet to research, but there was so little information. Our professors told us to go to the library anyway at that time, like especially for the arts, and especially like theater history, or let's say you're studying culture of the piano. Like our professors, like, dude, you're at Marymount, Juilliard's across the park. Go to the library. Do not use the internet as your source or whatever. But now
Right.
the internet's more reliable source, because I guess they're archiving all of that stuff that's in the library or whatever, and this and that. So I could appreciate what you're
Right.
talking about, and like how hard that was. I mean, it's like, God, it's still hard. I got to go over there, dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
for
I think
sure.
like what you were talking about, exercising in the morning, for people listening, that's very, very big. I used to weigh 265 pounds. When I got out of the military, I kind of like blew up a little bit. So in 2001, I took on a trainer and I started eating 5 times a day, like smaller portions. But
Absolutely.
but the biggest thing that I changed was, one, make sure I eat breakfast, because I wasn't eating breakfast. I was only eating twice a day, right?
Huge.
Yeah. And the second thing was, if it's close enough to walk, to range walk, in the military we have something called range walk, where you're
Okay.
like you're just walking really fast, almost to the speed where like the only way to keep up with you is to run. Okay, so
Right. Right.
so I lived in Harlem, and when I took the train to 72nd Street and instead of waiting for the 72 bus to go from west to east through the park,
Hmm.
I would just walk through the park. I would time myself. I'm like, dude, this takes 17 minutes. So the time it takes for me to wait for the bus and the bus to pick me up and the bus to pick other passengers up, I'm actually beating my time by 3 minutes. So I'm
It's
like,
it's
so
more efficient.
so every morning was range walk, and then lunchtime, I would do 300 crunches and like 100 dips, just for whatever, right? And then after work, I would train in Central Park because all of the guys who were playing beach tournaments on the weekdays wouldn't go to the beach. They would train in Central Park because they, like you said, they were working stiffs, and then
Right.
had
Right.
to hit the reset button to train after work. So
Right.
so I did that for a year and lost 50 and lost well, I lost 80 pounds, but cumulatively I lost 65 pounds. I found a nice little resting place at 200 even.
Yep.
I got as low as 186, but I didn't really feel strong. You know what I'm saying? Like
Start burning
I'm
muscle.
yeah, I'm at a tournament at the Pottstown Rumble, and the 6'3" girl pushes me friendly, and I fall to the ground. Okay, you lost too much muscle. Okay, the
Wow.
whole time she's trying to pick me up, right? So I'm like, geez, okay, I got weak.
I got a
I
security
got
job
too
for
weak.
you.
Yes, and I know she bigger than me, but damn, I'm sexist. No girl should push me, and I should fall to the ground like a girl. So
I
I'm
agree.
sexist like that,
You
and I'm
didn't yelp
also
when you fell, did you?
yes, huh?
You didn't yelp when you fell, like, ah.
No, I
Okay.
laughed. I laughed, but she was like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry," and I'm like, "Fucking, that's all right, man. Get out of here." So I
That's
help you up.
hilarious.
I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna lay here. Let me lay here for a little bit. I'll get up." But that's how I lost the weight. Found my nice little strength, like 200 even. When you consider my body mass index, that was appropriate. Like even in the army, even after boot camp, like I was 199. I graduated boot
Oh
camp
wow.
and I was 199, and they said with my height at 6'1", I was supposed to be 195. But I'm like, tell me where I'm supposed to lose this weight. tell me where else I'm supposed to lose that. So
But
this,
when you went into boot camp, where were you at when you went into boot camp?
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
No, no, I mean like what your weight wise, like if
Oh, I
you
went
say
in 216.
216.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I
that's
could
not,
and I could only do like 15 push-ups. That was crazy. So boot camp, I graduated. I did 43 in the 2-minute test, which to everyone thinks is low, but boot camp is not about you maximizing it. It's getting you to hit your momentum. Because after boot camp comes advanced individual training, where you have to learn about your MOS, and there's still drill sergeants there, and they still PT you to death. So by the time I got out of AIT, my 2-minute test, I did 62 push-ups, and then by the time I went to my permanent duty station, I did 72, and I got as high as 98. 98.
oh,
And I hurt myself.
you
Getting,
got me
I
beat
got
there.
101 because when you get to 98, you know what happens, right?
Oh yeah, the
You
hips
think you can
drop.
get to 100. You right? You're gonna try. You're gonna try to get to 100, and I hurt myself getting to 101, and I
Oh,
was like, so I got because I wanted to say I did that once in my life. There was a 2-minute test, and I got to 100 push-ups, but I should have really 98 should have been enough because I could have been, you know what I'm saying,
a lot of
I
push-ups.
could have been leveling that average, but
A lot of push-ups.
yeah,
You know,
I mean I don't.
one of my
I
fitness
haven't done
goals.
push-ups in a while, but honestly, if it's in my muscle memory, and I'm gonna let you talk in a minute, but it's in my muscle memory. Like if and like in your boot camp thing with LA Volleyball Club,
Right.
like if you told me to do 40, I could probably do 40 easy because the technique is still there. You know?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
good for you. I tell you, one of my long time life goals. Um,
Go ahead.
I can't say if I'm ever going to achieve it or not, but I'm gonna keep fighting for it. I have no idea what number I'm at right now, but I've always wanted to be able to do 100 push-ups straight without stopping.
It's
And
it's hard.
it's tough, and
You have. I
you
mean,
know,
yeah, even I stopped. I do 61 the first minute, 62 the first minute. And then the second minute, you kind of only wind up doing 15 or 20. So that's how a lot of people wind up at 80.
muscle fatigue, that lactic acid starts creeping in and
Yep.
taking over, and it it,
But
it
then
will
the
change
rest
your
position too. Right. That like you said, that lactic that acid buildup. Oh, sorry,
you know,
guys.
and I'm pushing, 230 pounds in terms of push-ups. Like I might be a little lighter right now,
Yeah.
just because of the change of my own personal life and having my boys more, and with COVID changing and closing all the gyms down, and ever since they reopened the gym facilities, I've still been very afraid to go back into the gym. And my biggest reason is I see guys my size and bigger with a face towel. It's just just a little washcloth,
Little
but they call
terrorist
themselves
towel.
they
Yeah.
call that they're gonna put that down on their back, which covers just one rear deltoid. It doesn't cover the entire back, and they're sweating everywhere. And the gym is not enforcing people to bring towels in. I'm like, why are you not making people bring towels in? Like, have you not been watching? Does your TVs not work just for people who work
Right.
here?
Yeah.
And they say, no, we can't enforce that. I'm like, how can you not? You can't enforce people bringing towels or putting towels out, but you can enforce people taking pictures?
Yeah. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Come on.
Like,
Stop.
it's absurd.
Yeah.
24-hour fitness. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, the one on there's one
On
in the
Ocean
South
Park.
Bay. Okay.
The
Yeah.
one on Ocean Park. At least
Okay.
that particular gym right over here in Santa Monica. How the other ones are moving about, that's another question. I'm a creature of habit, and I stay close to home, and I like my little block of area where I move around, and I got my parks that everybody knows me, the park rangers and stuff. Nobody harasses me when I'm out training and working with my clients.
Yeah. It's a normal
Um,
day. Yeah.
it's a normal day. But yeah, that particular 24-hour fitness, my recommendation to you, if you do venture there, bring your own towel and not a little washcloth or one to wash the baby's face with. Bring a
Yeah.
nice big bath towel so you can cover the bench. And even still, after you're done, please spray it down and show some respect for others who don't want to get your heebie-jeebies.
Oh my God. Well said. Well said. I want to move on to some fun stuff. We were talking about our fears at the end, but I want to go back to kids,
Yeah.
and have this conversation of growth, positive reinforcement versus tough love. Right. I have a coach, a club coach. His name is James Barker. He's coaches 4-3-2 or something like that in Texas, and over the years he's worked up where like good players are now trying out for his team, and he's got kind of this. He's ex-military like me, but he's like dude, I was a generator mechanic. This dude's a savage. He was a Black Hawk operator. All right, helicopters going in, hosing people down, dropping the air assault team. So he's one of those dudes, like straight up 11 Bravos, right? So, so he is from Texas,
Okay.
and he's a tough love dude. And there are some parents that don't like that because they think it makes the kid feel bad about themselves. And there's some parents that are like, dude, no, my kid needs a good old Texas kick in the ass to get going. So the cool thing is if you have enough parents that support you no matter what you do, it kind of works for you. But and I told James, like, sometimes you are a hard ass, and sometimes you do say some things that do make kids feel bad about themselves when, if you say it a different way, it's still tough, right? Like, I'll give you an example, right? Like, if there's hitting lines, right? But I want the person to pass, and the girl behind her is too close, or for adults, for boys or whatever, and if the guy's too close, I would say something like, hey, you want to give him some space, please? Do you want to buy? Why are you that close? Are you going to buy him a drink? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's the way I could say it. That doesn't make them feel bad about themselves. It's still tough. That's still my way of saying move the F out the way. Move, right? But at the same time, it's something where you have something to work off of, right? It's like they look where they are and they're just like, yeah, I'll move. He's right. I'll move. So, but I told James this. I told James to tell the parents this, and this is for James to take, and this is for you to take the floor, to take this magic carpet ride on. No championship team has had exclusively one or the other. Now, whatever percentage that winds out, like John Mayer, he's a growth mindset person. He's a head coach at LMU. In fact, they're playing right now. He's they're doing the WCCs, which I think they're going to win. They're probably going to beat Pepperdine. They're going to beat the brakes off of them.
Oh, wow.
He's a growth mindset guy,
Okay.
and he'll go to the NCAA's, but he ain't going to win. He's one of the my closest, as far as closest coach friends are concerned at the NCAA level, he's as close a friend as I'm going to have, except for Sam Schweitzky, who Princeton just won for men's indoor, so they're going to the NCAAs, and he's actually going to come on the show. But
Wow.
but he's different because he played for Hunter High School, and I was a coach there in New York, so that's how far back I go. So, but you have some coaches that are hardcore, and if they have enough talent, they'll make it to the finals and win because the people they recruit already know that going in. But
Right.
that doesn't always win either. So I told James to tell the parents that neither one. You'll win some games, and you'll raise good human beings with either approach. But to win championships requires a healthy balance. What a kid's willing to accept, and knowing their coach, and the coach knowing their players. The floor is yours because you I see those wheels turning right now.
Well, what was the what? Let me start by this saying that what were the two terms that you're looking at? Tough love
Tough
versus
love versus growth, positive reinforcement.
positive reinforcement.
Like that's okay
No,
next play, or tough love like you should know better next play.
right. And I just wanted to make sure I had the two terms down correctly. And here's my thing. I think the best situation is a balance of both. You need both. And I say that because positive reinforcement, depending on the variable in the equation in terms of who we're giving this to, might
Oh,
not be
and
enough.
also what they want, right? What I mean, I should have premised that before I had you answer this. What do they want? Are we thinking championship? Are we thinking just,
Well,
to
and
raising better human beings or whatever?
that's another good variable to throw in there, right? What do they want? But again, it still falls back to, at least for me anyway, it falls back to the variable in the equation in terms of who we're dealing with, in terms of coach to player. And everybody's going to respond differently to tough love versus positive reinforcement, with it all surrounding what it is they ultimately want out of what we're doing. And for some guys and some kids, positive reinforcement because of the environment that they grew up in, what they were exposed to at a very young age. For me, I don't. It may resonate, but at the end of the day, not resonate. It may get the point across, but it won't resonate because they need something more, something that's a little bit more tangible, right? And positive. Oh, great job! We'll get it next time. The reality of it is for some kids, if there is a next time, so
Yeah.
again, I think it depends on the coach, and how they were groomed, how they were trained, how they came up, and their experiences. And what I mean by their experiences in terms of this environment, all of it, the good, the bad, the indifferent. Because this is what makes the very things, the very experiences of those things is what makes the essence of that coach,
Right.
that coach mentor relationship with our young athletes. And again, the same applies to the athlete themselves.
Yes, what the kids have or don't have coming in. Sorry.
No. But I'm glad you jumped in because it matters. And part of our job, I feel, as the strength and conditioning coach, as the position coach, as the mentors, part of our job, one of the unique things about what we do is the ability to identify and recognize who we're dealing with and what it takes to get that message across. Because the message that I'm going to give you is going to be a little different than I'm going to give this person over here. Right? But it's all going to revolve around tough love because at some point, I got to drive the point home. Or I need you to move and get somebody in here who's going to give me what I need.
Yep.
Right. And one of the biggest, if I may be so bold to say, one of the worst things to be as a player for a coach is inconsistent.
Yeah.
I am so
Seeing
sorry.
a different version of that person every practice.
And it's funny because it bounces around, but at the end of the day, when we get to real sports, right? And what I mean by real sports, not to say that club is not real, because club in terms of youth sports is as real as it gets, right? But when we get to that next level, we're not talking about so much. If one kid on the club team leaves, they might pull 3 or 4 more kids with them. So now, in terms of revenue, our money has dropped. Right now, I might not have as much money to pay this other coach that has one of my teams, or to get more equipment, or to rent this facility. But when we get to real sports, competitive college and beyond, man, listen, you either get it together,
or you do not.
You sit right here and watch this other person who you might not like so much as a person, but I know who I'm getting. And this is what we're talking in terms of consistency. Are you really, as a coach, going to want to put a child out there who on Monday they work their tail off, on Tuesday they barely work at all, on Wednesday they're kind of working, but they're distracting everybody else, on Thursday no call, no show?
Oh man!
But on paper,
right,
is the best player in the club.
Yes. Yep. And but
what do we do?
But to what end? Yeah. Right. Yeah.
What do we do?
Well, in volleyball, you have the decision's easier because, I mean, at the end of the game, it takes the whole team to win, right? Like football.
But every team sport.
Yeah.
And that's like, the beauty. It takes everybody. And Bill Belichick said it again. I'll go back to Bill Belichick. He's again I'm a huge fan of his. But he says, do your job well.
Yep.
I can't run over here and try to help you over here, and I haven't taken care of my job over here.
Yep. Well, he was also speaking in terms of don't be out there in the game, trying to do more than what you usually do that you're already good at. Don't try to dumb it down, dumb the moment down. Do your job, right? So it means so many things. But I like your assertion first.
But let's peel some of that back, right, and take it back down to the grassroots level, if you will.
Yeah.
There's that same kid that has all the raw talent, skills, abilities, got the height, the size, but they're so inconsistent. But then when they turn around and have the audacity to try to tell somebody else how to do their job, or want to go and try to help somebody else to do their job, and you haven't taken care of your own responsibility.
Yeah, and that's implosive.
You didn't even show up to practice last week.
Yeah, that's implosive. And you know what? Take what you just said, multiply it by 5, and that is girls and women's volleyball. It's so, again, I'm sounding sexist, but it's so volatile because the philosophy or what all the studies are showing, I hate using that word because if I'm not looking at the study, I'm not vetting it, and I don't know who reviewed it, and I don't know the lurking variables. I don't like using the word study show, but I'll say it here, so forgive me. Men, they're inspired by leadership and individual leadership and performance. Women are inspired by sisterhood, the chain that keeps them together. And like you said, when you have someone who's uber talented, but at the same time, it maybe has a rotten attitude, or maybe feels like they're doing whatever, maybe threatening to leave, maybe have parents that are not with the situation, it is the beginning of the end of the entire nucleus of players, which will implode. And you know what the most challenging thing for a coach is? Because they're engaged and their success is contingent on sisterhood. Whatever happens badly or whatever, the coach doesn't really see coming. Most coaches and women's volleyball don't see it. Like Matt Furbringer, right? He got fired in the middle of his season at Long Beach State University. And my theory is they lost to Cal Bakersfield 3-0 that same night. I'll bet you they had a locker room brawl. I bet you there were a whole bunch of, I bet you there were hunks of hair all over that locker room. And I'll bet that he and his, he wasn't even the head coach. His wife Joy was. So forgive me. Sorry about that, Matt. But Joy had to go. Matt had to go, right? You're not going to keep the husband, right? Right. So, but my bet is, it was a situation that they didn't see coming, but they had to fall on the sword because they were the head coach. Guys, you see that coming a mile away. Hey, whoa, right. Go sit down. Or like me, I'm old school. I grabbed the both of them. I'm like, I don't care who started it. You saved that energy for the game. Do you freaking understand me? Because I look like I'm young, but I'm 51, and we're very much alike as far as whipping people back. But women's is scary like that because there's so much. Unless the girls say, "Coach, I need to talk to you."
Right.
You don't see it coming, but you got to fall on that sword.
Right. You have to, and I will say this. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of young women through the years, as long as I've been, in strength and conditioning and fitness. Um, with the exception of coaching elementary sports and having me a all girls basketball team, um, this is my first real go in terms of real competitive club sports with the Los Angeles Volleyball Club team and our girls teams out there. Um, and in a lot of respects, I'm very well aware of my antics and my energy when I'm working with young men. Get it? And you'll hit the money on the head. They vibe off of that, especially football teams,
Yeah.
right? It's the rules of engagement in terms of holding young ladies accountable for what they do or don't do. It's definitely a different ball of wax. And even though that's different ball of wax, the message and the outcome is still the same.
Well, yeah, winning and losing has no feelings.
Right. I mean, right, true. But I mean, in terms of either the attaboy and the accolades, right, and the high fives and the pats on the back, or holding somebody accountable and ripping them up one side and down the other. When you said, the girls they come together and they're here, and this is how it goes. But again, one of those persons in that link is the one with all the natural raw talent, ability, and skills, and who can probably get away not paying full attention to what's going on. But what about the others? And so now I get even more offended when I see that happening, male or female, because now I call that person selfish. And I don't never want to put nobody on blast per se, but if you make me, I have no problem doing it.
Yeah.
Just a quick case in point. Early on when I first came on with the club and I was addressing the team about something, and they're circled around me, and I'm talking kind of this way, and somebody's talking behind my back, so I just stopped talking and turned around. I was like, "Okay, what did you say?"
Yeah.
They just get
Share
quiet.
share it with the room.
Right, share with the
I'm
room. Like,
interested.
it was so important for you to say while I'm in the middle of talking to everyone. Why don't you come on up here and say it right now?
Let's do it.
And they were quiet, had nothing to say. And I made it very clear to establish my point and my precedent why I'm here. Listen, don't get it confused, ladies. I'm here for one reason and one reason only. And if you're going to be so rude and disrespectful to disrupt what I have to say, because what you're gossiping about is more important than what I'm saying, do me a favor, do one of two things. Come up here and share it, or leave.
That's your dichotomy. Those are those at that point. It's the only two options. Because look,
That's it.
no, but it's. I don't care if you're women. I don't care what psychological motivation you need to help you guys win. But the one thing that's paramount, the one thing that's a common denominator is you have to nip that at the bud early.
Right
Because
now.
if you
And
don't, because if you
that's my
don't,
point.
it sets a precedent that's okay. And
And
there's not a damn study in the world that I'm gonna read or agree with that says anything different than what I just said right now.
and listen, and that was my point, Jake. And for that right there, setting that precedent, for me, it's not about male, female, this sport or that sport. Now we're going back again to share other life, right? And that's the beauty of team sports and having these relationship with our young athletes, and how it prepares them for what's going to happen at some point when they're done with this ride in terms of sports, right? There's a certain level of respect that's given. You want respect, you got to give it. Respect is given, then earned.
Yes.
Right? It goes both ways, and that is exactly how any kids that I work with, we're going to establish this right now, or you're going to not like me more than you're already not going to like me for what I'm going to have to teach you and show you how to do to become a competitive variable in your craft, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do a taste test, and this is a fun way to try this out. Next time you got your team and they looking tired, ask them. Say, hey, who's tired? Nobody better say me, because I've tried to make it become a habit for them now. We have to train in a certain way. It's not obviously the physical part of it matters, but it's the connection between the physical and the mental that makes the difference in these hard fought battles, not only on the court, but in life in general.
Very well said. Very well said. Now I like that that Jason has enlisted these like-minded personalities that we all have a path to doing it, but when you look at the actual finish line and like how we all finish, we all it finishes all the same, and it's great that all of these girls, even now, like. Because I like to evaluate this stuff at the end of the season, like after nationals. Even now, I just see this sports maturity, and I also see this psychological maturity that goes beyond the age of 13. I'll highlight some people I like because I don't have to do last names. Like Sierra, my setter.
Mhm.
That's the oldest 13-year-old I ever met. You know, she's an academic. She's a Renaissance person because she's an academic. She's an athlete. She can do all of these things, right? So she's
Right.
someone, and this is where sports is important because if you are like that in every facet, as far as getting your career and getting what you want, there's someone that's going to notice you there's someone that might want to hire her as an attorney that might have seen her play college ball that is going to get her
Right.
a job, right?
Right.
You ever see the movie Renaissance Man? Danny DeVito?
Yeah, a long time ago. I don't remember it very
Well,
well.
Danny DeVito he's an ad age guy that couldn't find a job, so he got a job trying to teach Shakespeare to army kids, like in boot camp, right? So there was one guy that didn't want to get in sports because sports never got him a civil service job. So he told him a story about this guy who was this scholar, who was this poet, who was this writer, who was this author, and God knows what else, and should have been recognized by the world. He says, but the one reason he remembered him is he can stand in front of you and without a running start, literally jump over your head and stick the landing. And he said, and if that guy couldn't do that, he wouldn't remember a damn thing about that guy. So this is, as far as the importance of sports builds character. Sports builds discipline. Like we were just talking about respecting other people's time, coming on time, showing a discipline, respect for your elders, respect for your coach, giving, like you said, give and learn respect. But it is definitely an outlet to things that people think one thing has nothing to do with the other. I live in the South Bay, dude. Let me tell you something. You play a sport at USC and you decide to live in the South Bay, you're a made man, okay?
Really?
You don't have to earn your money selling real estate. They're giving you money up front to walk in the door to sell a house, right? So, yeah, it is. Look, I go outside and I can walk 5 blocks and I'm going to see USC flags. All right. I saw Harvard flag. Cool. My wife's an alum. God bless. I went to Marymount, Manhattan. You ain't gonna see none of those. I saw some LMU flags and you see some UCLA. But the South Bay is USC heavy. Do you know there would be public crucifixions if they ever cut the men's team for USC?
There's no Husky flags out there. There's no purple
Yes.
flags out there.
Yes, there's some Husky flags.
Okay, I was gonna say now.
football.
Don't have me move over there.
No, it ain't Husky Nation, but Huskies is really like, no, they're all over the place. Like if I had to bring another sport, right? Like I could go to a soccer game, like a World Cup game. I'm gonna see a bunch of people with Yankee hats in that game, right?
Oh, for sure.
You ain't gonna see a lot of people with FIFA hats at a Yankee game. So I mean, so there's
Absolutely.
some things that there's some teams or programs that transcend the sport, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I'm honestly hoping that volleyball can do that. It's not. I'm gonna out some people on this podcast. It ain't gonna happen anytime soon because right now the people who are in charge are not what I would call inclusive. So, and there's no way you can have transcendence without inclusiveness, without recognizing other people who want to help, who are actually good in their wheelhouse, and you keep them on the outside in. Here's another example, and you'll love this one. And I don't know, God knows I don't know how long you got, man. We're like an hour and a half in, but
I got like 10. I gotta go pick my boys up from school.
good, because I could sneak in that last question at the end that'll make us both laugh. All right, you can be the kind of person where if you go to a bar in Texas and the women's volleyball game's on, you ask the bartender to turn it on ESPN, and then people watch, right? And then all of a sudden everybody's into it, right? Or you could be a group of people, right? And you just choose to watch it on your laptop with just your people. And no one in the bar knows the game is happening. So how is anybody supposed to take interest? How are we supposed to generate new fans? In fact, how are we supposed to even generate people who play the sport? where we're chopped up in these communities that are I'm not gonna say communities because the community on a lower level, they're all inclusive. Yeah, I go to Florida. Let me tell you something. They got love. I went to New Orleans. Man, New Orleans versus all y'all as far as competition is concerned. But when the tournament's over, we all dancing together. New York, where the AVP is not going this year, we got love for all, man. We got a huge immigration population that wins men's indoor nationals almost every year. We have such a great immigration population. USAV nationals, they have a separate division. It's not called men's open anymore. They have open so the kids can win, and then you got pro. So for example, for them not to have it there because it's too expensive because New York's charging too much shows me, one, you're not ready. You're not ready to be big time. You're not ready to be a big time player, and you're not ready to advance your sport. Also, when people are on podcasts saying good riddance, I didn't want to go to New York anyway, that shows you. I mean, here's what New York, hey, New York, here's what they think about you. You know what I'm saying? How is that helping your sport? And how are you going to be the same person to be like, oh, if we want to do better, we should support each other? You know, some of these people make me sick sometimes, and I'm gonna stop there because I feel like I'm not gonna edit any of this. So I made a decision not to edit any of this, so I'm just gonna stop.
Well, there's something to be said about raw footage.
Yes.
And I mean that's I believe if I may be someone, I'm going to jump on and take a leap of faith here and say we are one of the last countries that do so much in terms of censorship. And I feel the problem with that is if we don't give it as it is, right? There's so many different personalities and minds and how people break down information that if we leave that up to the masses to figure it out, which you can see with a lot of things, we get so many different interpretations and different messages that the actual point of what's going on and how it's trying to be answered or resolved gets completely lost because it gets morphed because people are trying to fill in the blanks on their own to make that complete sentence or to finish that paragraph or to answer these open-ended questions instead of just giving that raw footage, that raw information. And I can parlay that into sports as well.
Good, because we're gonna keep it about sports because I want this to be a sports episode, but it was important what you said.
Well, I mean, because again, for that parlaying that into sports, because it's a real thing in sports. From our perspective, being coaches, mentors, and beyond, when we're talking with our young athletes and we're trying to explain to them, but we're so worried about hurting their feelings. I mean, listen, there's a way to get that raw message across and not be an a-hole, not be that d-bag, but still drive the point home so there's no misunderstanding of what's being said.
Amen.
And I get fired up when I think about that because I've had so many experiences through the years. Case in point, coaching my little league baseball team, we were having practice one day, and a parent comes up to me and their whole point was, coach, gosh, there's a lot of negativity out there today. Like you were really yelling a lot and wasn't really saying anything positive. And my immediate reaction was turning to them and saying, well, did you see anything positive? So you want me to go out there and lie to the kids? No. I tell you what, you go lie to them. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, let's not. I like that.
And they were so taken back by my response. And, I'm a little bigger than the parent was. And so you can see like they kind of started backing up and kind of, consoling themselves with their hands and doing this type thing. And right as this interaction is happening, 4 more parents came up before our interaction ended. Their words were, Coach Lewis, man, we love what you're doing with the kids. You're stern, but you're fair, and you're whipping these kids into shape, and they get it. They're seeing it. And as they're saying these nice things, which in a brief moment when the parent kind of, brought up the negative aspect, it kind of sat beside me because the last thing I want to do is offend anyone. I don't care about hurting your feelings, but I don't want to offend you. Right. For me, there's a fine difference between offending someone and hurting their feelings.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
And then being truthful about what's happening. And if I allow my athletes to believe the lie that they're telling themselves about they can't make that play, or they couldn't make that play, or they were afraid to make that play, then guess what? It's all true.
Yep. There it
And
is.
so these other parents came up and was giving their 2 cents about, how they felt the practice was going. And, now, I have aspirations of being a stand-up comic. So when this was going on, I'm
Please
looking at
call
this
me when you
man.
do your open mic. Please. I gotta come. You need
Oh,
someone in the audience on your side, and with this Jew fro, yo, you could roast me.
look, I've been working on material for about 35 years, and every time I walk out my front door, I'm getting new stuff because the world is just kind to have people in the street to give me material. I just haven't put it all in an organized format yet, but one day, people, it will come out on all social media that Lewis Jones, Coach Lou, Big Lou, the host of the Sports Lounge on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM, we're
One
out of
night
Santa
only.
Barbara. You got to be there for it because it's going to be epic. It might be a one and done, but I promise you, if they give me I'll be lucky to get a 30-minute set. You gotta really be established to get those type of sets.
Well,
But
sevens. Do some sevens. Do a whole bunch of sevens,
I'll
and
get a
just
set.
and
I have some friends that are comedians. One of my very close friends is Maz Jobrani. For those of you who may not know who Maz Jobrani is, if you ever seen Next Friday, or I believe it's Friday After Next, he's
yeah.
the owner of Holy Moly Donut
Holy
Shop.
moly.
That's Maz.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my man right there. But you can also find a bunch of his shows on Netflix as well. But while all this was going down with these parents, I'm looking over at this other parent who was really trying to tell me about how negative I was being with the kids, and it was the perfect timing to validate that I know what I'm doing. I know sometimes it's uncomfortable for parents to sit back and watch their kids get ripped up one side and down the other, and there's nothing positive being said. But I have a philosophy. It's not my job to stroke your child. That's your job.
No.
My job is to teach your child how to be bigger, faster, stronger, more efficient at their craft in whatever sport that is. And sometimes, if they're not putting out what we know, and what I mean by we know, that means the coach, that means the parent, and that means, most importantly, the player, the athlete themselves. If they're not putting it out there, it's my job to do one or two things: pull it out or get you to find something else to do.
There it is. Hey, before we go, let's talk about we had this fun conversation about phobias or fears.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come clean. Mine is clowns. All right. And we had this little funny thing about Homie the clown that kind of cured yours or whatever, but I still you can't, dude, you cannot take me to the circus. All right. Clowns, and for a long time midgets, and I have to correct the term. Like, I know
The
midgets,
technical term. The technical term now is little people.
but that's worse. That's
Look,
worse, right?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I mean, what do you? I hate to say, what do you call them? Because I sound like a bigot, but
No,
I
but you're
guess I
not.
am.
Listen.
Look, guys, for people listening, guys, I am not a racist, but I am a bigot.
No.
All right, I'm bigoted against clowns, and I cured my problem with midgets a couple of years ago. Tiny people, little people, a couple of years ago. But go ahead, sorry.
Well, I don't know. I just heard that was the technical term. I could be
No, but
completely wrong.
no, you heard right. I'm just
I don't
saying, how
know.
is that better? No, you're right. That is the term. But my question was, man, who loses on that comparison?
Listen, first of all, I'm gonna say this because I love these games, and I play little fun trivia games and do stuff like this on my show as well. And I'm a huge fan of throwing myself under the bus.
Yes.
And I've learned through the years that if I just beat everybody to the punch and
Yep.
throw myself under the bus, what do you have to talk about me? It's
Oh,
almost
no.
like the whole thing on at the end of 8 Mile when
Yes,
Eminem was
I
having
know
that
everything
rap
he's
battle.
about to say against me.
He put it all out there.
Yeah.
Now what? Now here, take this. Now what are you gonna say?
Yeah,
Right?
I
And
like
it's the
that.
same thing. And I have that same concept about myself. So I'm not afraid to say I don't do insects, people.
You said spiders, right?
Right. I don't do insects. I especially don't do spiders.
Okay.
Particularly spiders.
Yes.
Now, it's one thing for me to see a spider. Am I gonna freak out and say, "Oh, maybe not"? I say maybe because it's been known to happen.
Yeah, I
But I
got
will say this: I I I cannot stand spider webs.
Oh Lord,
It's the
you see
worst.
one in the house, you're like,
No, it's not even see it. It's walking through one. So I'll share a story with you guys real quick. Um, I meet a young lady. I go out on a date, and we have coffee. We have a little something to eat, and we're getting better acquainted. It's a first date, and we're getting better acquainted. But I've already shared with her that my lack of ability to swim. Listen, people, I'm not afraid of the water. I just know for a fact that if I get in the water at a certain point, I'm going down. It's gonna be bad.
dude, you're a piece of lead. You could paddle all you want. You're going to the bottom. Continue.
Listen, contrary to popular opinion, life vests don't always work. I'm just gonna say that.
Not if the life vest is attached to an anvil.
Listen, and so we're eating, and we kind of we meet. We had met on one of these dating app things, and just so happens that we live relatively close to one another. And
Okay.
so we were just eating, and she really enjoyed going for a walk, and it's kind of like therapy, right? Who doesn't like to go for a nice walk and just kind of smell life? Going back to that whole saying, like taking time to smell the roses, right? And so that's what we did. I don't go for a walk at all, people. Like if I'm doing something, I'm doing it with the point of getting it done expeditiously. And
Yes.
I want to say, I like to say this. I learned that word and how to use it in the proper
Free
context for
Mr.
watching.
Clark.
No, man, you
No,
already know
not
it.
lean on me.
Lean on me. With
Yes.
Sam, he on the top, he said, if you're going to jump, go
Yes.
ahead. You're going to kill yourself. Do it expeditiously.
You
And I'm like,
smoke crack, don't you, boy? Look at me when I'm talking to you. Do you or do you not smoke
yeah,
crack?
it's so good. It's so good.
That's where I
Um,
got it from. And Morgan
that's what I
Freeman looked
learned.
old back then. Jeez, that was 1987. He looked like an old dude back then.
Right. He ain't aged a day.
No,
You know what I'm
but
saying?
sorry, you finish. I wanted you
No.
to finish because you're the one that has to go. So I wanted you to finish your
All
story.
right. All right. So we finished eating and we start going for a walk in this local neighborhood, this close neighborhood, and we're walking and I already in my head. I already know what's happening. Like, I'm freaking out in my head. I'm like, because it's a little dark, it's a little breezy, and we're walking in between bushes. Like, one's on the side and the other one's right by people's front grass or the front lawn, and that's notorious for spider webs. Anytime you're walking in between bushes and trees and stuff, spider webs. So I'm thinking to myself, Lord, please, Lord, just don't let me walk
No,
into a spider web because I'm gonna lose my S if I do.
no, dude.
I know it. And so I explained to her, I said, hey, listen, I don't do spiders. I don't do spider webs. And I'm telling you right now, she's like, oh, Louis, you'll be fine. It's okay. And right as she's saying that, we hit a spider web and we were walking. She was holding my arm, but I'll tell you guys, she's got her arm into my arm and we're walking and I'm trying to do my thing. And when I hit this spider web, I just flew. Spider. And she's laughing hysterically. And then, I used a couple choice adjectives. And I was like, this S is not funny. I told you I don't do spiders. The best part is, for the next 3 hours, I kept feeling spider webs all over me. And I don't know why. I don't do spiders, people. And I especially don't do spider webs. A spider, I
But
can
that's
deal
how I
with.
felt with mimes. Like mimes look like clowns.
Right.
And
And
then
they don't talk.
and you walking down the street and the mime's trying to imitate you and you walk, they start walking with you, start running, they start running with you. I'm like, dude, you're gonna catch a two-piece. back, you have no idea what you're doing to me right now. But your
Mine's
spider story is hilarious.
it's bad, and it's funny because I don't have a problem with spiders per se. I'm lying. I totally do. And when I see a spider, I immediately get sweaty and I just want to just smash his face in. And people say, oh, but spiders are good for the environment. Says a person who's never been bitten by a pretty robust spider. Like when you meet a spider, have you ever seen a spider just walking on two legs and the other six are just kind of hanging?
No.
Right. Okay. You see my problem.
No.
Now,
Wow.
if this could have just been a bad dream or
Dude.
whatever, but it was very real to me.
Look, I'm sure they I don't know. Maybe they're like bears. Maybe they do that. I'm just like I don't. I'm like, wow. When they start walking like us, it's over.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And the last thing I'm gonna let him do is get the rest of his legs involved. So I got to dismiss him with extreme prejudice.
Oh God. So actually, before we go, I wanted to show a picture of Jason, like our program director, because we mentioned him a bunch of times. So this is our program director. This is a guy. This is Jason Nala. He's an All-American when he played for University of Hawaii. Big time, like world-class model. I'm not sure if it was Versace or Ralph Lauren. And then did the soap operas, right? And did All My Children, and then now what Tyler Perry's House of Pain, all that stuff. So
Yep.
big shout out to our program director who arranged this meeting of the minds between you and me, because it is an absolute pleasure knowing you, my man.
Man, I am very grateful for Coach Jo bringing me on as a part of LAVBC, and it has opened up my world to become friends and associates and coworkers with the likes of yourself and our other amazing staff. Like the staff at Los Angeles Volleyball Club is so amazing. They all have so many great things and unique things to bring to the table. It's the essence. I look at it as an essence of a fitness competitive sports gumbo pot.
Yeah, and also we're competitive in what and our as far as like our strongest suits.
Yeah,
It's very competitive with the coaches. Like, look, the most experienced coach is me. The best coach is Kamalu. The best coach is Kamalu, and not because she has the best team that's been playing together for a bunch of years.
no, like
No,
her
that
patience, her temperament, her voice inflection, and
yeah.
it's so
But she's not. But
non-intrusive.
she's not just this good mechanic in a room full of Ferraris. That little 24-year-old woman, not little, she's like 6 feet tall, is a real coach. That girl is a
Real
real.
coach.
She's not, because there's some coaches they got great players, and then they get exposed when they start playing other teams as good as them. No,
Sure,
this girl and her game plan and her maturity, man, God bless this young lady. And she's 24,
24,
coaching
and
like coaching like an old lady.
I wouldn't be surprised to see her. If that's what she wants to do, and from what I gather, it
She
appears this
she
way,
should be.
100%.
She deserves
She's
an
gonna
MC.
be
She deserves a
she's gonna
Division
be
One
on the
job.
coaching circuit for a long time, and whether she stays with LAVBC or she moves on to the professional ranks or whatnot.
Yeah.
The beauty of what she does and how she does it
Hmm.
is I can foresee her. It's her choice, whatever she wants.
Yeah.
Um, she's
Dude,
that well-rounded of a coach.
she's like a rap star where grown men are begging her to take her on tour, take them on tour, right? She's got that kind of youth star appeal. I really like her, and so do
She
you.
does.
And I
And
like you, my brother. Tell us your about your sports show as a plug before we get out of here, because
ah,
you're the Sports Lounge, and
you know
also
what?
you
Yeah,
got and you sent me a notice on a new partnership as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the partnership. I have a sports talk radio show, and then we take from the show and put it on all podcast sites as well. It's the Sports Lounge with Big Lou. It's on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM. We're also streaming now. We're now streaming nationally. So we're in Connecticut. We're in New York as well. Santa Barbara News Press Radio is also owned by the New York Times as well. So there's some connection there with New York for you. And we're also streaming on Radio Candy Radio here in LA. Eventually, pushing to get on more terrestrial radio around the country soon. We're really close to closing some deals. We're making that happen. So I'm super excited for that. And then Los Angeles just now entered Major League Rugby. So we have a Major League rugby
Yes.
team here in LA, the Los Angeles Guiltinis. Last year was their first year of existence in the MLR, which is Major League Rugby, and they did nothing short but go out and win the Major League Rugby championship. That said, I am now the first radio partner in the broadcast network for the Los Angeles Guiltinis. It's a huge honor. I'm super excited, elated, overjoyed, overwhelmed, and having so much fun with it. It's a great collaboration. Again, we're growing, and please get opportunity. Follow the show. You can email the show. We're on Instagram. It's at TSL Big Lou. The email is biglou@tslbiglou.com. Um, and again, we're on all podcast sites. There's a YouTube channel. If you just search the Sports Lounge with Big Lou, you'll see all the past shows. And, we always give a little teaser for the shows that are coming up for that coming week. Just FYI, the next show coming up, I missed him for this live show on this coming Monday, but we're going to get his show recorded anyway. Mike Pereira, VP of officiating for the NFL. He's also the head official for the USFL. A good friend of mine who's a heavyweight boxer, Johnny Rice, will be on the show this Monday. And every week we'll have something going on with the Los Angeles Guiltinis. I am the Sports Lounge is the Guiltinis' home for Guiltinis news, updates, interviews, ticket promotions, giveaways, and so much more. So do yourself a favor if you're a fan of rugby, if you're just a fan of sports in general, or just a fan of me. Either way, all three is a win-win-win. Doesn't happen too often in business, but here's an opportunity for that to happen. Tag, follow the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and let's grow this thing as big as it can grow because we all win because we're all in this together.
Nice. I like that.
And it'll be some fun. And we're doing huge ticket promotions. We want to get as many people down to the Coliseum. The Guiltinis play their home matches at the Los Angeles Coliseum, and they have a motto, and that motto is, we want fans in the stands with cans in their hands. You can't beat that. No. I can't stop saying it. I promote it every chance I get. So make sure you guys come out. I know May 8th is the next home match. It's a huge match. It's a battle of first place for the Western Conference. May 8th is Mother's Day weekend. So I'm sure a lot of you will be doing some wonderful things with your mom. But if your mom happens to be into contact sports and you want to do something outside and safe, get a hold of me, follow the show, come to the Los Angeles Coliseum May 8th, and be a part of a great Sunday afternoon and watching rugby. It's going to be a fun match. And matter of fact, I'm going to have a big booth down there as well in the fun zone of the Coliseum. You come, take pictures with me, with some of our Guiltinis, autographs. Again, more promotions, ticket giveaways for future games. It's going to be an absolute blast. I promise you don't want to miss it. If nothing else, you'll get to see me work on some of my stand-up while I'm there. Because, again, don't forget my aspirations of being a stand-up comic. I do think I'm pretty funny, but, that's my own personal opinion.
We're going to find out soon enough.
Yeah, you will. Listen, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 rights will make a left.
Oh,
I know some of you are thinking right now, but do the math. It'll work out. I promise. You'll end up in the same place if you follow that formula.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna leave you with that, all right? Because Big Lou Jones might love you, but I don't love any of you guys. In fact, I can't stand any of you. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPhones, for all of you on your desktop or your Droid or your whatever mobile device you're listening or watching this, from my man Big Lou Jones, I'm Jason DeBiz. This is the Option Podcast. Stay with me. I want to hit my music, but for now, we're out. It's on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.